Hello guys, and welcome back into another game. I was able to say Arsenals. It's called Professional Sickness. No, it's not Arsenals. This is Assassin's Creed Origins. And we are not playing Arsenals, we are doing Discovery Tours. And right now we are in the beautiful Giza, and if I'm not mistaken, it does look like we're gonna have a tour. Inside of those, it's 22 stations, so it's gonna be a bit longer one of the episodes, but you know what? That's even better. So learn about the Great Sphinx of Giza. Oh, the Sphinx. 22 stations of that. I was just mentioned in the last video. I probably did it already. Turns out I didn't. So we're gonna find out how close with the actual information I was or not. I don't know where I got those information before. It must have been somewhere though. And yeah, I'm liking these kinematic shots on there as well. I probably should have lasted longer than the other ones. Now he's repeating. So let's go ahead.
Welcome to the Riddles of the Sphinx.
The riddles of the Sphinx. Okay, that sounds interesting.
A sphinx was originally meant to be a personification of the king. The human head, wearing pharaonic regalia, was fused with the body of a lion, thus sharing the qualities the powerful animal possessed, namely its power, the swiftness of its attack, and its majestic authority. By these very virtues, it was also considered a symbol of protection. Unsurprisingly, statues of sphinxes could be found along the dromas, protectors of the path taken by the gods to reach the temples.
I think that's through the whole of culture of Egypt, like all these hats with birds and stuff. That's kind of the symbol of the strength of the individual animals. So I'm not really surprised by that. But I didn't know the Sphinx is actually representation of the pharaohs or the kings. Well, let's have a look.
Over the centuries, enthusiasts and historians alike have wondered, who built the Sphinx? For what purpose? And who does it represent? These questions remain unanswered. Several theories do exist, however, some more credible than others. One theory supposes that Jedefre chose to pay homage to his father Khufu by building the Great Sphinx of Giza. The stone temple on the eastern face of the Sphinx would have been added later on by his brother and successor, Khafre, in order to strengthen the divine worship of their father. It would be the first Egyptian temple oriented with the sun. Another theory suggests that the Sphinx was built by Khafre and was meant to represent him. The arguments to support this hypothesis are based on the fact that the limestone beds used for the main work of the Temple of the Sphinx are geographically and architecturally similar to the Valley Temple of Khafre. Some believe that Khufu himself built the Sphinx, which was later finished under his successors, Jedefre and Khafre. These arguments are based on the stylistics of the engraving, the typology of the nemes, and the absence of a beard at the time of construction.
The absence of a beard at the time of construction, so I guess that must have been also added later. And I can't imagine the Sphinx without that. Just what they mean by it, but I guess so. Let's go to the next one.
While ancient Egypt as a whole leaves a rather monochrome vision of its monuments and statuary, it is vital to understand that in ancient times, absolutely everything was painted. The sun, eating away at the pigments of the colors, the sand, the climate, and the implacable impact of time, unfortunately destroyed the glorious colors of the Sphinx of Giza. Documents from an Arab Egyptologist of the 12th century, Abd al-Latif al-Baghdadi, indicate that traces of red were still visible in his time. Today, however, the only color that remains are traces of red close to the ears of the Sphinx, as well as hints of blue and yellow on the nemes, traditional colors for that type of headdress. The pigments for the color red were man-made, obtained by mixing different products such as clay, quartz sand and very finely crushed hematite.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, so I was right about that. Essentially, before we, in our ages, there's almost no color at all, so it's almost look weird at first glance in the game when you look at the Great Sphinx, that it looks the way it is, but that's only because I'm not used to the colors to be seen. And again, the picture there that we've seen, the representation, the actual pole, if I can call it, was larger, at least 3 times larger than the person, so you can see how there could be misconceptions, because that's how I imagined this Great Sphinx before, like it's something really massive, which I mean it is, you know, it certainly is, but it's not to the extent one may get the impression from illustrations like the one we just seen.
Red had a strong symbolism in ancient Egypt. It was both the color of life and the color of death. It could represent the sands of the desert or the brilliance of the sun. Red was also associated with the god Seth, vengeful and destructive. The Egyptian word for red, deshur, is also the word which was used to signify the desert, or the royal crown of Lower Egypt. In art, red was also the color used to paint the bodies of men, while yellow was used for women. It is possible that there were also color restoration efforts during the Saite period about 600 years before Cleopatra's rule, as indicated by notes on the inventory stele, discovered in 1858 by Auguste Mariette. It is because of this that the team made the decision to display it with its full range of colors, even though the Sphinx's colors would have likely faded by Cleopatra's time.
There you go, they're very ancient. They were already ancient in the times of Cleopatra, which is probably for most people the first time when you kind of get into first knowledge of some Egyptian culture and what it looks like, and kind of represents all of this, and then you learn it's actually no, it's been millennia before that. At times of Cleopatra, it was already millennia old.
Dating from the 4th dynasty, approximately 2600 to 2500 BCE, the Great Sphinx of Giza is the oldest and largest sphinx that we know of. Carved from a natural limestone outcrop, the Sphinx measures 19.8 meters in height, 73.2 meters in length, and 14 meters in width.
So there you can see it actually, yeah, I stated before, I thought it was 50 meters, it's not, it's 20. But it's, no, it's 20. Yes, it's definitely larger, but yeah, then again, from the impression of the pictures you may, or something you may have seen as an artist interpretation, or perhaps even movies, you will assume it will be 50 meters plus, and the actual is 20, but to be honest, I mean, you know, the height's not all, and it's still substantial, like 20 meters is 10 times as tall as a person, or more, because it depends how tall is a person, but, you know, for this size, I'll say 10 people, and then 73 meters long. Now that's very serious, and 40 meters in width also. So it's definitely, it's not small by any means. It's just smaller than I imagined based on previous interpretations of various artists. And making videos and it's still giving troubles. I do apologize for that. I don't know why it is happening.
In order to bring polish to the imposing monument, several blocks of limestone were added after the initial construction phase. Since then, there have been numerous attempts at preservation. The polish present in the game integrates some aspects of modern restoration attempts. The team made this choice to present a more iconic version of the Sphinx of Giza to the player. Today, the Sphinx is called the Terrifying One. This appellation is translated from its Arabic name, Abu al-Hal, which in turn was derived from Baluba in Coptic. So
yeah, this is what I mentioned before as well, that the actual Sphinx now, no colors, but also the missing nose part, which there was a quite funny explanation for that in Asterix and Obelix, one of the cartoons. You may have seen it or not. I do believe it was Obelix, the bigger guy, let's call him this way, who was climbing the Sphinx, and because of his weight, he essentially ripped it off as he was trying to use it to climb on top. It was very funny. Hopefully you guys do know what I'm talking about. If you do not, then by all means go on YouTube and search for Obelix and Asterix and thank me later.
The Sphinx as a whole was carved in situ from a natural stone promontory. Its head was built in a limestone peak of the Mukattam Plate, and the body was sculpted in the underlying rock layer where it is located. The degradation of the Sphinx is due in particular to wind erosion and the different quality of limestone used in its construction. The level of sodium contained in the groundwater which abuts the stone is also a contributing factor.
Yes, essentially, it's explaining here as well. It's basically just due to the age why is the actual state of the Sphinx right now. I mean, it's kind of falling apart, but the main elements are just basic wind, and some of the limestone is losing some soul, and that's also contributing. But imagine how old this must be. It's not like it's a horrible shape or a horrible state. But if you build a normal, I don't know, you carve something into stone and then watch it, you can probably imagine like how long it will take until it will start changing shape, and it'll be visible that the actual elements are chipping away from whatever you build.
The natural bedrock is seen through the oblique natural strata of the Sphinx's body that are similar to the surrounding limestone.
And that was yeah, this is a good picture because I should probably like this as well. You can kind of there is a person in there as well. I do know those people are closer to the camera, so but that does give some kind of scale in perspective. But at the same time, again, it's not small by no means.
Since antiquity, people have always believed there was a hidden tomb deep within the Sphinx. It is thought that attempts to plunder the Sphinx began as far back as the First Intermediate period. Since then, numerous attempts to pierce the Sphinx's secrets have been carried out, leaving indelible scars upon the monument.
Well, this is what I was talking about as well. I'm pretty sure there was actually entrance inside the Sphinx in this game, and there is a hidden treasure. I may be wrong on that, don't quote me on that, but I was pretty sure there was. And there's a hole, so I'm probably right. Well, that's in the game though. In real life it didn't turn out that way.
12 meters long and cut during pharaonic times, another entrance in the back of the Sphinx aroused curiosity. Although Thutmose IV attempted to seal it off, it was possibly reopened by treasure hunters. It was rediscovered by Howard Vyse and mapped more recently by Mark Lehner. This entrance at the back of the Sphinx leads to different cavities of a few meters each, in directions going inside the statue's body and under the surface. The team has used this opportunity to extrapolate a little more.
That makes perfect sense. So there is actually this thing, but it's been carved by potential looters. The tour doesn't really tell us we're gonna be able to go there, so I'm gonna go. Excuse me, I'm gonna go ahead right now, and hopefully I'm not skipping something or trying to skip ahead. And here, as you see, there's a suggestion. There are actually rooms to explore. This could be just. Can we light this on fire? That's a question. How did I do that? I'm pretty sure there was a possibility to light those on fire too. And there you go. I'm struggling with the controls again. I was pretty sure it was possible, but I can't find out a way how to do that. Never mind, we're gonna have to ignore it. Or was it just a basic attack? I'll try that as well. Oh, was it lighting up? No, it wasn't. It's a shame. I'm pretty sure I can do that. It's quite possible. It's not possible in the. It's quite possible. It's not possible. Not the best choice of words, but it is possible that in the Discovery Tours you can do the same things like in the normal game. Since, for instance, you can't call your horse. That button simply doesn't work. It's quite interesting decision. I don't understand why. Exactly, would you want to do that? But that's the actual situation. What is that? That's going still deeper. Interesting. Now, where is this going? Is this gonna be... Yeah, this is the end, but there's the treasure in the game, I guess, because there's a chest. In fact, there's more than one. I have to keep in mind we actually wanna come back at some point and then continue the tour. So hopefully I'm going into dead end or something like that. It shouldn't be possible in the game, I guess, but you never know. You never know. Let's go a bit faster if we can. She doesn't like to run now at all. What did I press to make it like this? Oh, must have been that. And yeah, signal not audible. It makes sense. We are inside a building. Wow, I mean this is already suggesting that the complex down there is massive, but as we do know that there are certain rooms, but definitely not this size, and it's been suggested it only exists because of the looters who was trying to reach the secrets of the Sphinx, and it's quite possible that there were none. But this definitely looks special. Oh, this is definitely a location for something massive. I haven't been in here yet in the actual game. I'm pretty sure I probably should visit this to imagine something godlike to be placed in here. This looks like an actual map. Definitely it is. So that's the Sphinx, plus the pyramids and the small ones on the side as well. And certainly hills surrounded it. Very interesting. Shall we go still deeper? This is actually absolutely massive. I hope there will be a simple way how to come back. No, this seems to be the final room with the final chest in the game. If this is happening, it must be something to do. As I mentioned in other video, it's on external hard drive when I'm making the recordings, but I normally don't have these issues at all. And I did double check the cable connection as well. If that's doing something, I'm not doing anything else on the background, so it's simply just a simple recording. And suddenly doing this 2K, but which means it's less space per or less storage saved per second on that hard drive. And I do games in 4K, and those games are massive in size. There's a lot more information being stored per second. I'm getting lost now. I may have entered something I didn't enter before. No, it must have been from there. Just lack of light. That is confusing me. I didn't want to climb on there, thank you very much. We must have come this way. And there must be a way out. How did we get here? This is what I was afraid of. Like, it's not always so easy to come back, especially when it's this dark. We can't make the... Doesn't look like we can light up those torches on the walls. It's not easy to see. Oh, I'm thinking right now we are on a good way to come back out. It is really, it should be just press use and it doesn't do anything as far as I remember. Well, never mind, let's have a look at those tiny statues there. Let's get out. I think there's a daylight already. Let's chop this. No light at all. So, small detour. I'm sure you can do something like this when you're on the actual stuff, so why not do it in game since we can. Let's have a look at the next station. We're gonna find out now.
While there have been no major discoveries pertaining to the Sphinx of Giza in recent years, theories and hypotheses continue to emerge. Without validation provided by archaeological sources, however, they remain unsubstantiated.
Oh, maybe we're gonna learn more of that on the next one. He's like teasing us.
The first of the main theories as to the Sphinx of Giza's meaning posits that the Sphinx was originally a massive representation of the god Anubis. Its principal arguments are that the head of the Sphinx is disproportionate compared to the size of its body. The second theory believes that the representation of two sphinxes on the stela of Thutmose IV would indicate that another stone sphinx had existed on the site itself, possibly even in paired symmetry on the other side of the Nile. However, neither of these theories can be verified in any way.
Well, it's certainly an interesting theory, and yeah, they've been teasing us. So it was like a little bit of information, move along, and then you'll get the next one. But if this is accurate, which I'm pretty confident this is probably accurate size and digital representation of the Sphinx itself, I don't personally think the head is oversized. I don't know. I know it's really a personal perception. It's probably varied from person to person, but I wouldn't really say it's too large or something like that.
Several scientific projects using new technologies have been put in place in the past decades. The most important was led by Mark Lehner and his team, who specialize in the study and survey of the Giza Plateau, including the Sphinx site. The mapping made it possible to see the materials used to construct the Sphinx, analyze the different layers of erosion, and figure out the most fragile areas to protect. After a few attempts at giving the Sphinx artistic proportions, the team instead decided to use photogrammetry mapping to faithfully reproduce the proportions of the Sphinx.
So I guess we're gonna learn more about that on the next one. Let's have a look.
What the Sphinx of Giza represented during its construction and how the Sphinx was perceived by the Egyptians of the New Kingdom are two very different matters. Originally a representation of the king imbued with the power of the lion, the Sphinx was eventually viewed as a direct representation of the most divine. It is theorized that kings of the New Kingdom believed that the Sphinx of Giza was the one who recognized and legitimized the ruler of Egypt. Thus, despite the fact the Sphinx of Giza was partially buried under the sand during his reign, Amenhotep II knew that the monument was of great importance.
I get a little bit distracted by the change in daytime, and that also not change the graphics, just the graphics shine now, like it's just beautiful.
Amenhotep II built a second temple dedicated for the Sphinx as Horemakhet to pay homage to Khufu and Khafre, his predecessors. It became a common habit for this dynasty to spend time with their royal courts at the Sphinx. Its sanctuary became known as Setepet, the Chosen.
I should turn off my notification too, but that's kind of common to my videos. I always forget.
Egyptologist Mark Lehner believed that Amenhotep II built a statue of himself anchored between the paws of the Sphinx, likely to legitimize his reign, alongside a stela found by Salim Hassan. Many other pharaohs of this dynasty, such as Tutankhamun and Ramses II, also left marks of their passage in a similar fashion, sometimes even stripping the stones of nearby temples and pyramids to do so. Amenhotep II's son and successor, Thutmose IV, was a frequent offender.
I was really keen to learn more about those, and we just find out, yeah, that's apparently multiple of the fallen up emperors and rulers that try to add a little bit of them on to the Sphinx to legitimize their ruling power. which is very very interesting. So that apparently yeah been built in later with all the various other bits.
While sleeping between the Sphinx's paws, the future Thutmose IV saw in a dream the god Horamakhet proclaiming his coming accession on the throne of the two lands. This was, of course, on the condition that he remove all of the sand covering the Sphinx, which stood guard as the personification of the god, and should thus never be engulfed by the sands of the desert.
Now, the interesting thing on this, it says this photo was made in 1851 or 1852. How amazing is that? And that also shows how much it has to be uncovered later, because this is the state we found the pyramids and the Sphinx, and then obviously now we can see even the poles and everything else. We uncovered a lot of the body, but this shows how it actually was back in 1851. When that's what I mean by rediscovering of the Egypt again, like in the 18th century, by Europeans coming in there, because yeah, at the time the Egyptians themselves, outside of the looters in previous centuries, nothing really has been done to trying to conserve this. It was literally fading away in time. And funny enough, this looks really, really fallen apart. I'm not sure if there was some major restorations done since, but I'll have to see some more recent picture of the actual Sphinx now. But this looks already a lot more damaged than what I imagined it will be like. Certainly nowhere near the quality of that, minus the colors, which I imagined it will be in real life. But that was a picture from 1851 apparently.
The 15-ton dream stela built by Thutmose IV to commemorate his dream was discovered by an Italian Egyptologist, Giovanni Battista Caviglia, in 1818, when he undertook the task of freeing the Sphinx from the sand, which had yet again covered it. Caviglia was looking for an entrance into the structure of the Sphinx, but instead he discovered an open-air chapel and stelas between the paws. Ashes from a ceremony were still present. Protected by sand, they quite possibly were from the last ceremonies in Roman times.
Fantastic. Okay, but so this one says even in 1818 there was this guy Giovanni Battista trying to uncover the Sphinx again, but we already seen the photo from 1851, which will suggest all of this was already below the sand. But at the time he was trying to uncover the Sphinx, which was also, this is already suggesting it was done later, so maybe the first archaeologist was actually, or Egyptologist was coming there even in 17th century. Well, actually that's 18th century, 17 something, isn't it? So it is 18th century, 1700 something, and then by the time the next one came, all of that was already lost to the sand again. Now this guy uncovered this. Essentially, this picture couldn't have been done. Yeah, this is 1853. That's one. Once the other photo already suggested it was buried. That was 1851 and 1852, and then in 1853 he was already uncovered. But this guy came there in 1818. It was all covered. He did uncover this part as well, which is between the poles, as we can see in here. And then again, the picture was taken later, and the sun may have been somewhere up to here, isn't it? And we can barely see. Probably that's not even visible out there, so maybe it's even taller than that. We can barely see the head coming out of the sun on that photo there. Very interesting. Let's go next station then.
That same year, Caviglia discovered fragments of the Sphinx's beard that had probably been added during the New Kingdom. If many of these pieces are held by museums in Cairo, a fragment is displayed at the British Museum, along with a piece of the uraeus that was on the Sphinx's headdress. It is believed this fragment of beard was possibly kept in place thanks to the statue of Amenhotep II, which was supposed to be located under the head of the Sphinx.
I'm not sure if this one is suggesting this is 19th century photo, and the quality is quite staggering, but I mean the other one was 1851, right? So I guess it's possible. But yeah, we can certainly see this is the way I kind of imagine these things. Plus maybe it's not as weathered. It's probably been restored since, I imagine. They did some kind of restoration in there. Or maybe not, I mean, what would you...
A popular cultural legend purports that the nose of the Sphinx of Giza was lost during the time of Napoleon Bonaparte to the cannon fire of French soldiers in training. However, engravings from before the time of that campaign already depicted the Sphinx without a nose, indicating that it had been removed before the French campaign.
Yes, this one is obviously just artistic portrait made probably in 1868. It looks like that, but Bonaparte was like 1808, isn't it? When he was in Egypt. Maybe I'm wrong, but it definitely was like 18 plus a couple of years. He probably was 1808, if I remember correctly. And they tried to blame that nose thing on him, but no. The depictions basically were already there without the nose prior to that. And as I mentioned, the since it's and then blame it on Obelix ripping it off.
The most plausible hypothesis is based on the research of the German historian Ulrich Harman. During the 1980s, Harman compiled medieval sources written by Arab authors. In doing so, he discovered that the Sphinx was once perceived as a favorable omen, a deity supporting sediment-nurturing floods and crops. Around 1378, a Sufi by the name of Muhammad Sa'im al-Dar could not stand this vision of the monument, and in an iconoclastic act, broke the nose of the Sphinx. According to the texts, he was then hanged and burned between the legs of the Sphinx for his crime.
Now, let me very quickly. 1378 dimension, okay. So apparently this guy did it in 1378. And then was executed essentially at the pass of the Sphinx. Well, very, very interesting. Let's climb it. If you cannot from this side. We're not asking too much. But I did want to actually climb. If you can. Yeah, that's fantastic. Can we go up? Yes, we can. So yeah, absolute piece of history and beautiful at that. Hopefully I will see it myself before it's completely gone or something happens to it. Myself going there. Yet to go to Egypt, but if I go there, it will be mostly because of this and that behind, and all the other aspects of history and culture, which are absolutely fantastic and fabulous, and really, really beautiful architecture they had. I want to see it all. I probably won't be there for the modern Egypt, or what the modern Egypt can offer. Really, I'll be there to see their history and their past and their heritage. But that's just me. Of course, I will try to enjoy afterwards the beaches and stuff. They do have fantastic resorts in there too. But that wouldn't be the choice while I'm doing it. I'll definitely, if I ever go, which I'll definitely go. I need to go. I need to see this for real. When I go, I'll go there because of this. Fantastic. And Hulk seems to be agreeing to that. And with that, I'll leave you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.